Hey guys, Jay here. This is smarthelping.com. I've got an update on the made-to-order manufacturing model. I've added two new direct cost schedules for direct labor cost per unit and variable manufacturing overhead cost per unit. Now, these costs, before you could only enter unit costs for materials, and that was a problem because you had payment terms for, let's say you could buy materials up front and you only pay 25%, and then you pay the other 25 or 75% in some future month. You could configure this and it all works with cash flow, and that's fine. But if you had things like direct labor cost per unit, you had nowhere to put it other than the fixed expenses up here, but you basically have to vary your costs or scale your costs with your unit sales per year, and it wouldn't be as accurate or as easy of a model to use. So the new addition here is you have direct cost for labor and direct cost for variable manufacturing overhead. So labor is pretty self-explanatory. Manufacturing overhead would be things like that vary with the unit production, such as the electricity for the machines, machine maintenance, things like that, where if your volume of units goes up or down, these costs go up and down. So I've added plenty of slots here for each of the unit types. And the way it will affect the model is, instead of following a purchase plan like this or a payment terms plan, it follows the months it takes to ship a unit from when it's ordered. So if I go here, and let's just zero all these out and just show you an example. And the reason why I wanted to do this template update, I had one client talk about wanting a separate direct labor cost per unit input. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, that's probably worth it to add to the whole default model. So everyone who's purchased this, if you want this latest version, just ping me, and I'll send it to you, no problem. It'll be updated in all the bundles as well. So let's say you have a product, 100 units are ordered in month 2, and it takes 3 months to ship these units. So that means in month 2, month 3, and month 4, we're producing the units. So while we're producing those units, we have these costs happening. Now you could get fancy and say, well, over the length of the production cycle, what percentage of the total direct labor costs happen in month 1, 2, and 3? Same with the machine and electricity or these costs. But I think that level of granularity is not necessary, and it's most beneficial to just divide it over the production period, which would be in this case 3. So the model simply, if we look at sales, let's go to the bottom of the matrix here. You can see our direct labor cash flow is happening in month 2, 3, and 4 for 22,000, and 22,000 is simply going to be our weighted average cost per unit. In this case, it's $220 times this 22,000, and we're just spreading it out over these 3 months starting in month 2. And as you fill in orders for these, it would all update. Then we also have the variable manufacturing overhead is $105 a unit, weighted average cost, and we're doing the units ordered weighted against, well, that's the weight, and then the cost per unit here to figure out for every monthly cohort what's your weighted average cost per unit. And if you go down a little bit more, the variable manufacturing overhead is 10,500 over the period, over the 3 months, and 10,500 is simply derived by your weighted average cost per unit, 105 times 100 is 10,500, and we're dividing that over 3. Now, if this were safe, let's say 6 months to produce. Now we go over here. Now it takes 6 months. Same total cost, but you're dividing over a longer period, and that's where you're thinking about how you come up with these costs per unit is, and I've put a helper here too to figure out your costs per unit for direct labor, manufacturing overheads. There's a lot that goes into coming up with this number that you'll put in here, but the basic idea is, let's say, you use 10,000 hours of machine hours, and it costs you a certain amount of money, and that you're able to produce a certain amount of units with that, that you can derive your cost per unit based on that. And then as you fill out, unit quantities, it'll apply that to whatever time frame your production period is based on this, and your cash flow. So the cash that actually hits is when you're paying, because obviously you're paying your direct labor each month. You're paying the electricity bills, machine maintenance over time. So all those costs are happening in those months. But for the income statement, those costs don't get recognized until you sell the unit. And then that's when these items will impact inventory. So your variable manufacturing overhead, it's absorption costing accounting. These and direct labor will increase your inventory. It's called work in progress or what have you, but essentially inventory goes up, and then when you sell, inventory goes down. Here you can see we have receivables for a little bit while we wait for the customers to pay. And then we have logic here to account for when we actually receive the money from the customer, and all the relevant cash flow effects. And the balance sheet is affected accordingly as well. In this case, we're collecting some cash up front, so we have unearned revenue. Then when we ship it, our receivables go down. And all that is dynamic based on the inputs here. So I'm just going to zero this back out. But that's the update, and I think it's quite important. So if you do, and I updated the alternative version, which works just the same, but it has a couple different. So if we go to the alternative version, let me get over here. It's similar, but I did a couple things, like you can automatically adjust the price of each unit type over time with the annual growth rate. And then I did some fixed expenses changes where there's some of them you could change the expense cost by year instead of manually putting it in each year for these. And then these are annualized, so you put in the annual overhead cost here per year and they'll divide by 12. Whereas the other one, you'll put in the monthly costs here and those just flow straight over to the monthly. Those are the only changes between the alternative version and the primary version. Everything else works exactly the same, and you can see here the unit costs. And this alternative version also has the new schedules. Okay, so that's the update. If you want to download it, it's still available at smarthelping.com. It'll be in the, if you go to general industry, it's at the top here in the manufacturing section, made to order. It'll be right here. I'm going to put the update video. I'm going to update the screenshots. Probably put an updated video down here that just says, updated with the direct and different unit cost schedules we added. We'll keep these other videos here because they're still relevant, because they go more in depth with the model, core mechanics of the model. All right, and that's all I got for you. If you do want custom work, you can hire me, $275 an hour. And if you want to buy all the templates I've ever built, you can go to the Super Smart Bundle right here on the sidebar. $500 will get you, I've got over 200 unique financial models. They're all editable, unique for all different industries. Check it out. I've done this work over the past decade. And that's all I got for you today. I will have a new template coming out maybe in a week or two. But I definitely wanted to get this. This is one of the more popular templates, so I figured we should probably get this thing going. So I've done all the checks. There was quite a bit of checks to make sure everything flowed through without causing any errors to the financial statements. So it was a fair bit of work, but it all works really good. And like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.